Shine has put together some information for parents and schools to explain spina bifida and how it can impact on school life. Spina bifida is a condition which affects the development of the central nervous system, which is the brain and spinal cord. Information from the body, such as skin sensation or temperature, tracks up nerves to the brain, and messages of movement are sent down nerves from the brain to the muscles. The main channel for these messages is the spinal cord. Pairs of sensory and motor nerves come from 31 of the vertebrae, or backbones. Open spina bifida is a developmental condition which occurs in the first weeks of pregnancy. The neural tube, which will grow to be the brain and spinal cord, fails to close, leaving a gap. This leads to a split in the backbones and leaves the spinal tissue exposed and damaged. Messages between the body and brain may not get through, which is the basis for all the physical aspects of spina bifida. Open spina bifida is usually detected at the 20-week scan. Skin-covered or occult lesions are usually diagnosed at birth, during childhood, or during adulthood. The lower on the spina bifida lesion begins, generally, the less the severity of the condition. In open spina bifida, there is a sac or cyst on the back without skin covering it at birth. Myelomeningocele is the most common and serious form of open spina bifida. The cyst contains exposed spinal cord, which has been damaged by the fluid of the womb. It's associated with loss of skin sensation, bladder and bowel issues, changes to the way the brain develops, and motor function. Meningocele has a sac, but this does not contain spinal cord, so the severity of the condition is generally much less, although tethered cord can have an impact. Closed spina bifida lesions are covered by skin at birth, protecting the spinal cord in the womb. There may be a dimple or fatty lump, called a lipoma, which anchors the cord low in the spine. This is called tethered cord. So how does spina bifida affect children? As a general rule, the lower the lesion, the less marked the effects, as the fewer nerves will be unable to communicate with the brain. The nerves that control the bladder and bowel are sacral nerves, the lowest nerves off the spinal cord. Most children with spina bifida have bladder and bowel issues, and for many children, this may be their biggest issue during school years. Messages from skin sensation on the feet may not be received. There might be patches of loss of sensation on the legs or around the bottom. Skin sensation, especially pain, is a mechanism that protects us from damage. Circulation is controlled by nerves, and blood flow to the feet can be reduced in spina bifida. Good blood flow is needed to nourish the tissues, remove toxins, and fight infection. Some children with spina bifida will walk in early childhood or until the teen years, then use aids or wheelchairs to get around. Children with lesions from the middle of their lumbar area may use wheelchairs most of their lives or all their lives. The most important thing is to be able to move where you want, when you want, and how you want. Keep a positive view of all forms of mobility. Tethered cord is a condition where the spinal cord is stuck down in the spinal column and stretches the spinal cord. Balance can be affected by muscle tone, skin and joint sensation, brain effects such as vestibular issues, and visual perception. PRE2, involving the cerebellum, can affect balance. Children may have pain in their back, legs, or head, especially if they have a shunt. Anxiety, depression, and self-esteem issues can be linked to continence problems, difficulties with schoolwork, social relationships, or because of changes to brain development. For children with open spina bifida, learning and behaviour can be affected by changes in brain development. This is independent of hydrocephalus. If nerve messages to the bladder and bowel don't reach the brain, the child may not feel what is happening, and even if they can feel it, they may not be able to control when they go to the toilet. Urine is made by the kidneys and travels down ureters to the bladder. Without spina bifida, the bladder fills with urine, stores the urine at low pressure, and then stretch receptors start the bladder squeezing at the same time the sphincter, which holds the urine in, opens. The bladder should squeeze until empty, then the sphincter closes to contain the urine as the bladder fills again. Children with spina bifida often have overactive bladder muscles, which are tight and twitchy, so the bladder doesn't fill well. It also stores urine at high pressures and can spurt the urine out as leakage and back up to the kidneys. This reflux can lead to kidney damage. Tight, twitchy bladders can cause frequency and urgency of urine and incontinence. If the sphincter isn't working in harmony with bladder emptying, the bladder might not empty completely, which is a major cause of urinary tract infections. The sphincter can also be too loose or opens even if the bladder isn't squeezing, so the bladder leaks. Assessment of what the bladder is doing is done by urodynamics, which examines the bladder as it fills, stores, and empties. If it's tight, it could be relaxed with medication, such as oxybutynin or tolterodine, or Botox injections. Drinking fluids throughout the day can help the bladder to fill. Some children try to restrict their fluids to reduce their leakage, but it actually makes it worse. Emptying the bladder completely and regularly using intermittent catheterization can help prevent infections. Catheterization involves inserting a thin, flexible plastic tube into the bladder, letting the urine drain, then removing the catheter. It's a clean procedure, not sterile, and doesn't need to be done by nurses. Because of the very intimate nature, it understandably can cause anxiety at the beginning for schools and parents alike. It's important that school staff understand what's involved and are happy to do it. Equally, school must make sure that they identify and train enough staff to provide continuity to cover absence and school trips, and to ensure that the child can attend school, secure in the knowledge that someone they know will be there to support them. Training should be done by a continence advisor or specialist nurse, but together with the parents or carers, so it's as close to the way it's done at home, with the same language used as possible. The procedure will be an ordinary part of the child's life. They will know the difference between their ordinary care and something more sinister, and this helps keep everyone safe. Involve the child in the procedure and encourage them to do the parts that they can, beginning with washing their hands and opening the packaging. Independence will come at different ages, but independence is the goal for all children. Some children with higher lesions may have curvature of the spine, like scoliosis from side to side, or lordosis or kyphosis from front to back, which can make it harder for children to reach the urethra to catheterize independently, particularly girls. Surgery to straighten the spine can make it even harder to reach, as the spine is more rigid and longer than before. So young people who had catheterized independently before may be unable to for a while after surgery. The same is true of spinal braces. Grips, handles, and mirrors can help with catheterizing. Children with open spina bifida may not be as dexterous as their peers, and catheterizing can be quite fiddly. Some catheters are designed to be easier to grip and handle. Some have bags attached so you don't have to watch where the urine goes. Lack of sensation in the genitals can make it harder to feel what they're doing, and changes to learning can make it harder to learn the steps in sequence. So when you support, talk through the steps using the same language each time, and get children to do one new step once they've remembered the previous step, working backwards. Washing hands, disposing of catheters and wipes, then removing the catheter, etc. It's important to engage the child from a young age and make sure they understand this is their body and their catheter, and that everyone wheezes. Teens who can manage the technique can switch off as catheterising makes them feel different to their peers. Acknowledge their concerns and feelings and try not to nag. They're more likely to catheterise if they're not missing anything fun, so make sure they don't have to go further than necessary for facilities. Check the catheter's big enough, as it can take a long time to drain if it's still a baby size. Sense of passing time may make it harder for a child to know when the time has come to do their catheter, so alarms can be helpful, especially 2 alarms 5 minutes apart if they have difficulty switching attention. So the children will need prompting or reminding for a long time. Remembering can be the hard bit. Some young children may start school with a vesicostomy, an opening of the bladder onto the abdominal wall, which allows the bladder to drain completely if it's very tight and won't relax. This can prevent kidney damage until the child is old enough for augmentation, which is a major operation to enlarge the bladder. If young people find it too uncomfortable to catheterise or are becoming a young adult not yet able to catheterise independently, a Mitrofanoff might be formed. This is a channel created by surgery from the abdominal wall into the bladder that can be catheterised. It stays closed when not being used, so doesn't need a dressing, pad or collection bag. Good bowel management is essential for health and self-esteem. It's the most important quality of life issue for adults with spina bifida around the world. Most bowel management involves preventing constipation with good food, plenty of water, and often laxatives, coupled with effective methods of emptying the bowel at a convenient time and place, daily or alternate days. This can be medication, suppositories, or transanal irrigation, such as Peristeen or Cuphora irisedo, which is being used more and more for children aged 3 or older. Macrogols, such as Movicol or Laxido, soften the feces, but for some children it leads to soiling or smearing throughout the day. The continence advisor, specialist nurse, or Shine's health team may be able to make suggestions. Intermittent episodes of explosive fecal fluid can be unpredictable and difficult to manage. It is most often caused by severe constipation and called constipation with overflow. Being upright and active in any way you can for parts of the day can help the bowel keep moving. Before exercise, encourage the child to sit on the toilet and protect their clothing. As pain protects us from damage, reduced sensation to the feet or legs can mean damage happens quickly and severely. Burns, scalds, cuts or pressure sores can become very severe without these important warning signals, as you don't stop or remove yourself from the source of the damage. Shoes and AFOs might rub as the child grows or their foot shape changes and need to be replaced quickly. Help children develop good habits of checking areas of their body they can't feel, such as the feet, including the soles and heels, and the backs of their legs. Use mirrors for areas that are difficult to see. Check the sides of the legs to make sure the wheelchair frame isn't leaving red marks on the outer thighs. Check the wheelchair fits correctly to support the weight of the legs and feet. Children with very high lesions may find it hard to regulate their body temperature because of lack of feedback from the skin to the brain. On hot days, they might need reminding to drink or seek shade. Reduced circulation can mean damage to the feet or legs, can happen quickly and take longer to heal. Don't wait to flag up any changes you notice, because it won't get better on its own. Some children will use wheelchairs from very early. Other children may walk in early life and use a wheelchair later on. Some children will use a wheelchair throughout their entire lives. Many teens find it gives them more independence and is far less tiring than walking. Some children will use wheelchairs their whole lives. Wheelchairs should be the lightest available to try to reduce wear and tear damage to the neck and shoulders over many years. The muscle groups needed to propel manual wheelchairs are not our strongest muscles, and doing the same actions over and over again can stretch the muscles at the back of the shoulders. After using their wheelchair, encourage children to stretch their shoulders out. Ask a physio to show you how. Wheelchairs should fit correctly and not have too much room for growth, as this can make it harder to reach the wheels. Foot plates should be the correct height to support the weight of the legs, but prevent pressure to the back of the thigh, and to support the feet without causing pressure. Find ways to stop the feet slipping off, for example, DICEM or straps. Otherwise, the foot plates can dig into the back of the ankle and cause nasty sores. The child won't feel it. Some children might find it harder to navigate obstacles because of visual perception or motor planning issues. Wheelchair use can make it possible for young people to join in sports and games, which is great for weight management, fitness, mental well-being, and social opportunities. Children shouldn't spend all day sitting in one position. They need to stretch their body out. If it's possible, children should spend some time upright for the bladder and bowel and to strengthen long bones of the legs. But do talk to parents and the physio about whether this is appropriate, and if so, how, for example, standing frames. Tethered cord is a condition where the spinal cord is stuck at the spinal column and stretches with growth, leading to mobility problems and bladder and bowel issues. When we're born, the spinal cord ends at the bottom of the back and should ride up inside the spinal bones to end up in adulthood at around waist height. Children with spina bifida may have tethered cord, where the spinal cord is stuck down by scar tissue or a fatty lump and cannot rise up. Tethered cord can reduce skin sensation, bladder and bowel changes, muscle spasms, pins and needles, back or leg pain, and sometimes headaches, since the spine and brain are joined. Surgery is often needed to detether the cord, so flag up any changes you notice, as the earlier issues are addressed, the better. Sitting balance can be affected by weaker muscles to the trunk or hips, so supportive seating can help with concentration. Ask the occupational therapist for suggestions on seating and for the toilet. Chiari-2, a developmental condition of the brain, can lead to dizziness and difficulty with balance. It's very important that children aren't left to experience pain for a long time. Over time in pain, pathways in the brain can open, leading to chronic pain. The brain detects pain long after an injury is healed. This is not in the mind or imaginary. Anxiety increases pain, so keeping anxiety levels down is helpful by relaxation or talking through fears or anxieties. Lack of skin sensation doesn't mean pain can't be felt in the bones or underlying tissues of that area. Pain can be felt anywhere, and back, shoulder, neck, and head pain are common. Postural changes, such as curvature of the spine, might cause extra pain. Neuropathic pain around the spina bifida scar is also common. Anxiety about hospitals, needles, or shunt malfunction may mean some children try to hide their pain, so get to know what makes them anxious. As well as the physical aspects of spina bifida, such as continence issues, children might have more anxiety or depression. They might be anxious about their health. Periods of time away from school for surgery or illness can make it harder to sustain friendships. The cognitive effects of spina bifida, like difficulty thinking ahead or managing change, might cause anxiety. Difficulty focusing the attention or switching between tasks can make it harder to excel at schoolwork, and they might be being told off for daydreaming. The built environment and society's attitudes can lead to young people feeling not part of their community. They may feel excluded from opportunities, so inclusion in all things is vital. Picking up learning, continence, and emotional well-being issues very early on and putting in support can help children really succeed and feel positive about themselves and their lives and thrive. Not all, but some children with open spina bifida will have some cognitive changes. They are often subtle, such as use of language, flexibility and managing change, or taking longer to focus attention or switch to another task than their peers. Short buffer zones between tasks with a bit of notice. For example, in a minute we will stop doing this, can help them prepare for transitions. There can also be difficulty using basic skills, such as handwriting or reading, to do more complex tasks. So handwriting may deteriorate from a handwriting exercise to writing a story. Similarly, word recognition may be good, but there might be difficulty with what a text actually means, or finding the most important points. Sense of time can be a problem for some students. They may need some support to manage their time during tasks or exams. Putting in support early can stop children from falling behind, so they can thrive and really feel good about themselves. So do take any opportunities to boost self-esteem and support children to really do well. Strategies for similar specific learning issues, such as autistic spectrum disorder and ADHD, can work really well. Older students might need help to break large projects into smaller, manageable tasks and help to keep track of deadlines. Shine has a lot of extra information on their website, and we can be contacted on 01733 555 988 if you have any questions or would like to know more. Thank you.